It's time for our Wednesday draft. We have a formula for Monday, for Tuesday, for Thursday, and for Friday during the season. Wednesday is the day we have to come up with something. So today, the surprises through the first 8 weeks of the season. And no surprise here, you're going to ask me a trivia question. It's going to be way too hard. I'm going to get it wrong. You're going to get the first pick. Go ahead.
Well, I hope you get it wrong. It's not way too hard. I think you can get this one. You're just going to have to think quick, okay? So Steven Strasburg got a win last night to get the Nationals to Game 7 in the World Series. Strasburg was drafted first overall in 2009. Who, Michael Florio, who was the last number 1 overall draft pick to win the Super Bowl? Who is it? Who's the last number 1 overall draft pick to win the Super Bowl? Who is it? Keep your eyes here. Don't look at the computer. Don't look at the computer. Stay right here. Who?
Peyton Manning.
Ah, damn it.
I mean, there aren't many number 1 overall draft picks that have won the Super Bowl.
No, I know.
Right?
I was hoping you might choke it off there.
All right.
That was too easy,
all
guys.
I know is when you started talking about Steven Strasburg, I'm thinking about the guy that directed E.T. That tells you how much I pay attention to baseball.
Oh,
all right,
man.
I get the first pick.
Yep.
First pick for me, and there's a lot of different ways you can go with this.
Right.
But the biggest surprise for me by far, when we consider the recent history of the New England Patriots, even though they have been excellent at the end of the season, to see their defense come out and essentially evoke legitimate comparisons to the '85 Bears early in the year, dominant early in the year. That's usually when the Patriots are still finding their footing. The performance of the Patriots, and specifically their defense, right out of the gates, and to roar to that 8-0 start. I mean, I expected them to be in the mix at the end of the year. I did not expect them to be this good, this soon, and this dominant defensively in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair. I mean, I think Bill Belichick is basically sent warning shots to hey, Matt Patricia and Brian Flores, you guys were good and you did a good job here in defense, but I am still the master Jedi of defensive game planning. And it's been phenomenal. I mean, Bill Belichick's D coordinator, head coach, whatever. I mean, he's the greatest thing we've ever seen in football, really. But it's amazing. It is. And the scary thing is, compared to the teams that they've had in the last few Super Bowls, maybe they're not as talented on offense, but this is the most talented defense they've had. And it's just amazing all the different ways New England can win on a year-to-year basis. It's truly amazing. So, all right. I don't know what I'm going to go with here. I'm going to go with Matt LaFleur. That's going to be one of my biggest surprises of the first half of the season. I mean, come on. You questioned him being hired. Then we questioned, can he work with Aaron Rodgers? And then it was, oh, gosh, all right, they're working okay, but then there's this audible thing. What's going to happen there? I got to give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit. I questioned how good he would control the room and things like that. I didn't know because he's not always the most impressive press conference type of guy. But we've seen him in the locker room a few times after games when cameras are in there. He's very good and comfortable in front of the team. He's actually better there than he is with the microphone in front of him. But I give him a credit for finding a way to communicate with his superstar quarterback who is used to things one way, and not only has he got into his superstar quarterback's head and maybe changed him in some ways, but the big thing is he checked his own ego at the door to go, man, my superstar quarterback is a superstar, and he's really damn smart. And maybe I'll let him do some of the things he does too and let him control the game. And we heard on the game last night, or Sunday night, Collins were saying, Matt LaFleur sometimes talks about how he feels like he doesn't earn a paycheck in the fourth quarter because he just lets Rodgers do his thing because he's so good at the line of scrimmage and all of that. I mean, that's amazing. That's great by him that he is willing to do that because I don't think that's in his nature or his DNA from his coaching tree and everything like that. So I got to give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit.
Yeah, and look, that was a very real debate and conversation about whether and to what extent Aaron Rodgers was going to be given freedom at the line of scrimmage. The way that offense is set up, they pick 2 plays in the huddle, and through a predetermined set of parameters, the quarterback decides which of the 2 is going to be the play that is called. And he's coached into what the parameters are, and it's a very specific flow chart that he goes through, and Aaron Rodgers didn't like that. And it ultimately became a public thing. And in hindsight, it was one of the best moves that we've seen so far this year because it allowed Aaron Rodgers to win. And it was smart of Matt LaFleur to let him win. Embrace when you have a guy who can make magic out of nothing and make these decisions on the fly and just make things happen. So I agree with you. It's been a surprise because we all had misgivings about the idea that you just go out and hire somebody with some tangential connection to Sean McVay and everything's going to work out. Matt LaFleur was very, very smart to let Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers and allow the Packers to be who they have been, which at 7-1 is a stunner as well. All right, I'm going to go with the Colts round 2. 5-2 when you consider that they lost Andrew Luck the weekend before Labor Day weekend. They had 2 weeks to pivot to Jacoby Brissett. Pivot they did. They lost week 1 to the Chargers in a game, in hindsight, they should have won. But even then, they have managed to win 5 out of 7 games. Jacoby Brissett is a fringe MVP candidate based on what we've seen. He had that great play to extend the play that helped set up the game-winning field goal drive when he spun away from Von Miller in the end zone on Sunday. Jacoby Brissett has been great. The team has been great. Coach Frank Reich has been great. And they have moved on from Andrew Luck. And we kind of thought they could. I didn't think they'd be 5-2 through 7 games, and I can't imagine they'd be much better, if at all better than 5-2 if Andrew Luck hadn't retired, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. I'm with you. We knew Jacoby Brissett was good. We thought that they could still salvage the season and be competitive, but I think it's been phenomenal. It just speaks to Frank Reich. His ability to keep the team, focused and on the prize and just keep playing well. And Jacoby Brissett has done a great job. Certainly not easy. Filling in for a guy who's, was a legend to that point. And, I hope that fan base now is back on, as far as supporting the Colts, because it seemed like they were a little bit like, oh, man, how could you do this to us, Andrew Luck? And the Colts aren't as good. We want our season tickets back. I hope they realize that, this team's competitive and they're going to be in the AFC upper tier here throughout the year. So good pick by you. I'm going to Minnesota, baby. I'm going to Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook, baby. I'm going to combo.
Yes. Let me just say something.
Yes.
One of these days, you're going to make that sound, and a moose is going to appear out of nowhere and try to make it with you. You understand that, right?
Whoa. You took that in a place I wasn't ready to go there. You got to be careful leading me down the road, okay? That's
All right, go ahead. Continue.
Okay, so speaking of mooses trying to mate with me, now, yes, you jerk, okay? You totally threw off my point here, but I got to give Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook the combo. They're one of the biggest surprises in football, and I don't want to be a cop-out by picking 2 guys here, but, man, they kind of feed off each other. It does start with Dalvin Cook. We all knew Dalvin Cook was good, but, he's now arguably the best running back in the game. So that's been a really pleasant surprise, the way he's dominated football games, and then off of that, how could we argue with Kirk Cousins and what he's done? Just answering criticism, punching it right back in the face, and just been on fire in the last month. He's the number 2 rated quarterback in football right now. He's got 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he's only, 0.3 points behind Russell Wilson to become the number 1 rated quarterback in the sport right now. But yes, it all goes through Dalvin Cook, but nonetheless, Kirk Cousins has been amazing, and the degree of difficulty of some of the throws he's made over the last few weeks have been really, really impressive. So I got to give both of those guys a big shout out.
Yeah, they were done. They were cooked. They were horrible after they lost to the Bears at Soldier Field, and they've won 4 games in a row since then. And I was on with Paul Allen, our good friend who handles the Vikings play-by-play, his KFAN show on Tuesday. And I told him that the next 2 games are going to show us whether or not this is a special season for the Vikings or whether or not they're just going to be scrambling for a wild card berth come Week 16 and Week 17 at Kansas City, at Dallas. You win those 2 games, you're a team that is to be reckoned with in the NFL this season. Lose one or both, and it's going to be Packers win the division, and maybe the Vikings get the 5 seed or the 6 seed, go on the road, the first week of the playoffs and lose. So these next two games, I hope the organization realizes how critical these are to setting the tone the rest of the way. All right, last one for me, and I'm going to go negative here. We mentioned the Vikings losing to the Bears. You know, when the Bears beat the Vikings were 3-1, and the Vikings fell to 2-2. And the Bears haven't won since then. The Vikings haven't lost. The Bears haven't won. And it just feels like it's falling apart in Chicago. Matt Nagy, the coach of the year in 2018, it feels like he's on the verge of cracking up. They blew the game on Sunday. Mitchell Trubisky has regressed. And it just feels like this is a lost season for the Chicago Bears with no real hope to make it better because they don't have a whole lot of draft picks. What do you do with Trubisky? What do you do with everything in 2020? So bad year for the Bears, and I didn't expect it to be as bad as it's been.
No, definitely not. You know, I don't know if I expected 12-4 again, certainly, but I didn't think it would be far off from that. You know, at the worst, I was thinking like 10-6 and, you know, in playoff contention, but I don't see any way how that happens. I'm with you there. And they were on my list as well. Good one. Okay, gosh, there's so many to pick from here. I mean, I want to say the Saints defense. I'm just giving them a shout out. Shaquille Barrett, I mean, come on, he's leading the NFL in sacks, but the one I'm going to go with is the 49ers defense. I mean, the 49ers defense is the #1 defense in football. You know, and I want to say the 49ers team in general, but I never doubted Kyle Shanahan and his offensive genius and the things he could do there. I was just, not that I questioned the defense, but how good would they be? The team, first off, has, in just an overall capacity, exceeded my expectations. I mean, they're arguably the best team in football, but the defense has been like, I mean, really dominant. I mean, butt-whooping every week. It doesn't matter who's in front of them. Their front seven, their front four is the best in football. They fly around. I think they're the fastest, most aggressive team in the sport right now on both sides of the ball. And the 49ers defense specifically is one of the biggest surprises of the year to me.
Yeah, unbeaten, dominant, and who knows when they're going to lose their first game. They got some good ones coming up. They play the Packers, they play the Saints, and we'll find out more about how good the 49ers are coming up in the second half of the season. All right, we got to take a break. There's the draft. Patriots defense, Colts and Bears for me, Matt LaFleur, Cousins and Cook, and the 49ers defense for Chris.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.